So I think we're live. Hello to everyone watching and welcome to round number 3 for the APAC division here in URL. As you might see, we're in quite a different place to all other divisions this week, whereas every other division will race at Zandvoort. Here in APAC, of course, short for Asia Pacific, we will race at the home track for a lot of these drivers. So yeah, we're here at Albert Park in Melbourne, Australia, and as you can clearly see, it's quite wet around the semi-street circuit, as we see the first cars out on inters at the moment. So yeah, already of course this circuit is quite tricky under normal conditions, but with these treacherous conditions it will be even tougher for the drivers to keep it on track and get a clean lap in. Of course there is plenty of time to do so, still 16 minutes on the clock. So yeah, only 13 drivers today, not the attendance we were maybe hoping for, but I think it's still more than enough to get an exciting race. Championship leader Plefs is one of the drivers who's missing, so people like Ural Cramp and Ural Joseph Lai will be hoping to capitalize on the absence of the Red Bull driver and yeah, try to get an advantage in the championship over him. So right now almost all drivers are out on track, as Ned Hammer will be the first man to start his lap. Of course we don't know if the session will stay wet the entire way or that it will dry up towards the end, but one thing we can say is that it's wet right now, so yeah, just driving on board here with Ned Hammer, who's trying to use every inch of the track and maybe a bit more as he goes into the second sector chicane and up towards the very fast chicane at the start of the third sector, turn 11 and then turn 12. Try not to get too much on the curb as it will on the set of the car. He keeps it in a straight line, and now up towards turn 13, hard braking down to third gear and trying to get on the power as quickly as possible into 14. Quite quick in the dry conditions, maybe a bit slower now with the intermediates into the penultimate corner, as he has some traffic of the Renault in front of him, and now feather the throttle through the last corner and up to the line. Will be the first timed lap of the day, and it is a 1:34.2 for Ned Hammer. And BJ will be the next to cross the line, as he has a big tank slapper going into the final corner and also coming out of the final corner. So let's see what his time will be, and it will be provisional pole by 2.5 tenths at 34.0. Next up we have RL9 in the Alfa Romeo. Rounding the final turn, keeping it nice and tidy on the exit. Up towards the line, and he slots into P3 just behind Ned Hammer, as Carson comes in with a 33.5, puts in the fastest lap time so far, as Ashley abandons his lap and dives back into the pits. Junguman about to end his lap, but he has invalidated, but he continues on for a second run. So Toddy will be the next one to put in a actual lap time, also a bit wayward out of the final corner. Up to the line will be pole for now, as he slots into P5 just ahead of Shush. And I think we'll go on board now with Ural Cramp starting his lap. You see a lot of drivers struggling for traction out of the chicanes. Now into turn 3 he goes. as he keeps it within the track limits. 30.9 through sector 1. Data says he's faster right now. Don't know if that information is trustworthy, but we'll see as he continues on, keeping it tidy on the exit of turn 9. Into the fast chicane, keeping it within the track limits, taking a bit more curb than we saw, for example, Matt Hammer do previously. Now braking for 13, down to 3rd as well, staying off that exit curb, down to 4th gear. So we have some yellow flags ahead as Carson is off the road. Luckily no problems for Cram there as he rounds the final turn. And now up to the line, let's see if he can beat that time by Carson, and he does by almost a second, a 32.6, and that's a proper lap time from the Ferrari driver. As we have now Joseph coming up the line, and he slots into P2, just over a tenth behind Cram. So right now first runs are done for most people. We have Deanna who has invalidated on his lap. Josh is still on a valid lap. Don't know if he is improving or not, but we'll see as he comes towards the line in a moment. Big wave out of the final turn, and he does improve, and he goes P6 with a 34 flat. And Deano will abort his lap and return to the pits. Toddy also on a lap right now. Drivers will need to find their confidence and build on it throughout this session, as times will get quicker towards the end. Toddy peels into the pits as well. So right now Cramp and Joseph clear at the front. Cramp just over a tenth quicker than the Racing Point, as Ned Hammer now goes into P3, some 7/10 of the pole time. So right on board now with Ashley through the 3rd sector as Joseph gets out of the way. Of course, many drivers will be wanting to perform well at their home track. As Ashley now comes up towards the line, and it will be P4. Just in between Ned Hammer and Carson. As we have Cramp on another lap, and I just saw he is 7.5 tenths up on his previous best. So he and Joseph already cleared the top, and Cramp might extend that advantage by quite a bit once he crosses the line. Needs to keep it valid, a bit wide through 13 or 14. Can't remember the corners, but he now rounds the final bend and goes up to the line at 32.6 is the time to beat, and he goes in with a 31.9, 8 tenths clear now of Joseph Lai, but still plenty of time for the other drivers to try and close that gap. Oh, and I already found it a bit, it took a bit too long for BJ to round that turn 2, and he made a mistake brushing the barriers, and I think he lost a bit of his front wing, but no terminal damage, so he can try to bring the car back safely to the pits and try again with maybe a set of fresh intermediate tires. As RL9 has gone into 4th with a 33.4. Zunguman invalidated his lap. He and Diano still the only ones yet to set a lap time, as Diano now is approaching the end of the first sector, 30.6. Quite competitive first sector time for the McLaren driver. Taufik will start his lap as Diano is just invalidated, so he'll back out, maybe go for it again, or maybe peel into the pits once again. As BP goes into 2nd place, 6/10 of the pole time from Cramp at the moment, 1.6 seconds improvement for the Haas driver, and he's on the front row at the moment. As Joseph now starts his 2nd flying lap, we'll go on board with him, as most people have finished their 2nd runs. Slight lift through the fast right-hander up towards the end of the 2nd sector, 30.4, 5/10 up on his time. That's a promising first sector split. Let's see if he can keep it together throughout the entire lap, as he does have some traffic ahead in the form of the Alfa Romeo. Goes a bit wide here in turn 9. That will have cost him some time. Still pressing on, as indeed he has lost about 1.5 tenths through that 2nd sector. But this improvement would still put him back on the front row for now. Keeps it in 4th gear through turn 13. Ooh, got a bit on the grass. Keeps it within the track limits. Into the penultimate corner, misses the apex slightly. And that's a bit of a weird line. I think, yeah, he's going back to the pits. Not happy with his improvement. And back in for a chance of a final run where I can maybe improve a bit more. As we have Cramp and BJ on their out laps right now. Shush now coming up towards the final corner to put in a new lap time. I don't think he'll be improving, and he won't. 35.9, some 2 seconds off his personal best. Both McLarens not looking good at the moment, both on their out laps for what will probably be their final run in this qualifying session. To the P11 last of the drivers who have set a lap time, and the NOP12 without a lap time. As Zunguman, the other driver who hasn't recorded a lap time so far, starting his flying lap right now. As we have, I think, Taufik approaching the line, and he goes P6. We're at 33.3. Zunguman at 31.4 in the first sector. It's about 8/10 of the pace of the front runners. And we have a spin at the final corner in that study. Oh, that's really unfortunate. As Cramp rolls by to start his lap. And yeah, this is not looking good. As Ashley now towards the line goes P3. Ferrari 1-3 at the moment. And I think, yeah, Toddy misses quite some pieces of his front wing, so that's not ideal, and I don't think he'll be making it back in time to the pits. So that's qualifying over for Toddy Rumble. Won't be starting any higher than 11th, and normally 11th will be quite a favorable starting position, of course, having the free tire choice, but with these wet conditions, of course, everyone will be having a free tire choice if the race start is dry. Ned Hammer takes away P3 from Ashley, and Carson takes away P3 from Ned Hammer. Really close times as Taufik now goes onto the front row with a 32.5. As Cramp is once again improving by almost 4/10, now approaching the final sector. As it's now crunch time into the last minute of qualifying. As Diano will record his first valid lap of the day, and it puts him 8th at the moment, 32.9. As Cramp now up to the line, can he improve on his 131.9? And he does, by just over 3/10. So 131.6 is the time to beat for the other drivers. BP starting his lap right now. As Ashley will go again for one final time as well. Has cooled down his tires and will now give him one final try. And BJ has seemed to lost a bit of his front wing as well, so that's not exactly ideal. Zungelman improving by just over 6/10 as Joseph Lai is retired from the session. On track it seems. Zungelman crosses the line, stays in 13th and last of the runners as the checkered flag has fallen. BP also not improving anymore. And Carson and Ned Hammer go 2nd and 3rd at the moment with their final runs. Taufik not improving anymore. Ashley slightly a bit up through the first sector. Let's see what his second sector time will be. I don't think he'll be improving either, as he's backed off, and indeed he has. As Cramp will finish this final run, but I don't think it will matter because there is no one really improving anymore. He stays down on his time at 31.8, which still would have got him in pole. But yeah, I think that's qualifying over. Ashley won't be improving, and BJ with that front wing and now spinning as well won't be putting in a better lap time as well. So that's it. That's the end of qualifying, and we have a Ferrari on pole position, and it's quite a dominant one. 6/10 of a second to the man in second place, and then just 2/10 back is Ned Hammer, who out-qualifies his teammate Joseph Lai, who's been fighting at the front. So great job by Ned Hammer in the racing point. Taufik Naval joins him on the second row. BP just behind in P5, alongside Ashley in P6. And here we can see the rest of the results. So Joseph Lai disappointing qualifying in P7. Diano put in a lap time towards the end after invalidating most of his early runs to grab P8 ahead of RL9 in P9. And BJ rounding out the top 10 just ahead of Shush and Toddy Rumble, who crashed on the start of his final flying lap. And Jungelman, the last of the drivers participating today, with a 35.000, some 3.3 seconds of the pace. So yeah, that's it. That's qualifying done, and I think it has shaped up a nice grid for the race. Let's see if we'll get any different conditions in the race. And as we are now awaiting for the drivers to start the formation lap, we can see that it's sunny and clear. Maybe not so sunny in the pit lane, but at least there's no rain for the drivers to worry about. So now of course it will be interesting to see which tires everyone starts on. Of course, with qualifying being on intermediates, every driver now gets the free tire choice. So it will be interesting to see which strategies the drivers go for. I'd say the most favorable strategy is the soft to hard. You can also try and go soft medium, or maybe an aggressive soft medium strategy, or switch it around and start on the hard tires, try to stretch that set, hoping for a late safety car. A lot of opportunities, a lot of possibilities, and will be interesting to see what drivers go for, as we could see quite a mix of tires along the grid. So we're just waiting for everyone to load in, and there we are. As we can now check what the drivers have gone for, and we can see that there's already quite some variation in the top 5, with Carson and BP opting to start on the medium tires, with pole sitter Cramp on softs, just as Matt Hammer and Taufik Nafal. Sorry, teammate Ashley, who's just crashed on the formation lap. Okay. Well, he will be starting the race on soft tires, but they will be very cold, just as the tires from Joseph Lai. We'll be starting on mediums, so they will be even trickier to get a good start. Diano, highest placed man on hard tires in P8, then RL9, opting for an aggressive strategy off the line as well on the softs, with BJ on the hards as well, Shush and Zungelman outside the top 10 on mediums, and in between is Toddy also on the hard tires. So the McLaren boys will be going along on their first stint, and they'll probably be trying to stretch it as long as they can to bolt on a set of fresh softs towards the end of the race. As the drivers will now be lining up on the grid. We saw Cramp win in Bahrain, and we saw Plebs take a surprising win in Baku. 2 from 2, can we make it 3 different winners in 3 races? Cramp on pole will hope that that won't be the case, and he'll hope he'll be the first repeat winner of this APAC Season 2 here in URL, as all drivers are now lined up on the grid as we go towards 5 red lights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights are on. And they're out, and away we go. And it's a good start for Carson, who looks like he'll be maintaining P1. Carson maintaining P2. Ahead of Nat Hammer and Taufik. BP in P5 also maintaining position, as it looks like everyone has got off the line cleanly, as Ashley tries to dive on the inside on BP. Thinks better of it, and immediately has Joseph on his heels. Diano maintaining position despite starting on the hard tires. BJ looks like he has gained the position. As RL9, despite starting on the soft tires, has lost out to both BJ and Shush, as Zungelman has gotten the better of Toddy at the start, but it's still Cramp out in the lead and already pulled out a more than a second. And that Hammer, we missed it, but he has gotten past Carson. Crucial for his race, of course. using the softer tires. As you have quite some carnage at the back of the grid as BJ and Diano tangle, and I think it's damage for sure for Diano, as Ashley also struggling. Diano into the pits, as is BP, who might have picked up some damage as well, as there's carnage further down the field. Joseph Lai up to 5th now, and BJ, despite that tangle with Diano, seems to be unscathed, and he is now up in 6th in front of Ashley, who seemed to have just gone wide at the penultimate corner. Didn't pick up any damage, as BJ is all over the place. And Ashley gets by. There must be some damage to that car, because it can't be that he's and now the Alfa Romeo is damaged as well. BJ, at least looks like to me, is lagging a bit as well, so causing some carnage at the back of the field. As RL9 now also is damaged, as Joseph Lyle also already picks up a 3-second time penalty. Of course, track limits are quite strict around here, so it's easy to pick up a penalty. But it doesn't seem like, at least on the front wing of BJ, there is any damage, but he just got it all wrong in that first sector of the second lap. As Cramp has already an almost 2-second lead after the second lap, checking out in front, as RL9 now into the pits as well after that damage he sustained with his tangle with BJ, as Taufik now tries to hunt down Carson. Of course, Carson starting on the medium tires, so naturally he will be a bit slower in this first phase of the race. Already passed by Ned Hammer, and now the Renault is within DRS range. Gaps further down the field seem to have spread out a bit. And we have Toddy now on the back of Jungleman. The last of the drivers who haven't made a stop yet. Of course, 3 drivers already have made a stop. PP, after damage he got, we didn't see it, but he got some damage, and he is boxed for the medium tires. Now putting in some quick lap times. Diano and RL9 interestingly have gone for the soft tires. Diano starting on hard, now going to softs. So of course both of these drivers will have to make another pit stop. As we have a battle now for P3. And Taufik, that's a bit harsh on Carson. And we have a safety car, we have a full course safety car. And I think that might have been caused by Toddy Rumble spinning at the same place he did on his qualifying run. As he locks up and goes wide into turn 1, I think he has some front wing damage. Yeah, he has. There still is a front wing, but there are not much end plates attached to it anymore. As Diano takes this opportunity to switch back to his hard tires he started the race on. Will be interesting to keep an eye out for him, see if he can make it towards the end of the race on this set of tires. It's a bold strategy, but it might pay off. So yeah, time to calm down a bit for all drivers. Of course, Cramp won't be happy with this safety car. His lead obtained in the first 3 laps now gone, as Ned Hammer is now right behind him. And Ashley does make a pit stop, as does Ned Hammer. So we have some drivers opting for a switch of tires. And we will see Ashley box for the yellow wall medium tires, and Hammer will switch to the hard tires. So again, difference in strategies, which will make this race a lot more interesting. And they'll come out in P8 and P9, as now Toddy boxes as well, of course, having to drive a whole lap with that damaged front wing after crashing just past the pit lane entry. And he'll be switching to a set of medium tires as well. Of course, he can't switch to a set of hard tires because he was on the hard tires when he made the mistake. So now the McLaren boys at the back of the field. And I think Diano will be ahead of Toddy, as the pack has now reached the safety car. It's very interesting that the safety car was called out for what it seemed like a relatively small incident. Of course, maybe the fact that Toddy was parked on the track was a reason for the game to decide to pull out the full cost safety car, but it is what it is. It neutralizes the race, and it gave once again opportunity for different strategies, as we saw with Ned Hammer and Ashley boxing under the safety car, as now all drivers apart from the two McLarens have caught up to the queue. So I think we'll be out for one more lap before we get going again. As RL9 is also in again now, deciding he does want a different strategy, a different tire to be on, and it does seem to be the logical choice. Now only the top two on softs, the rest either on mediums or on hards. So I don't know exactly how the tire wear is. Of course, it also depends on the setup the drivers are running, but I wouldn't say those soft tires will go for an extreme amount of laps after the safety car comes in at the end of this lap. So it's interesting to see what will happen with Cramp and Taufik. Of course, you would say if a safety car comes out and you're on the soft tires, you box for a fresh set of medium or hard tires and try to make it a bit longer into the race. Of course, when they box in maybe 3 or 4 laps time, they'll lose a lot more time to the drivers who have made a pit stop, like Ned Hammer and Ashley. So yeah, have they made the wrong decision? Of course, that's to be seen, but yeah, we see safety car in this lap, quite early in the lap actually, that the safety car lights go out. So Cramp now determining the tempo. Quite some way to go, of course, to the finish line, as the drivers hopefully won't make contact with one another, as that will of course result in a 5-second time penalty, which will be served once the drivers make a pit stop. So let's hope they'll stay off each other and we don't get any penalties. So far it seems good, as Cramp still not going, of course trying to wait as long as possible. Taufik just in time on the brakes, as Cramp now has bolted, and we are racing once again. So we have Ashley, all drivers making it through turn 1 and 2. As Diano already on the back of BP. Diano now on 4 lap all the hard tires. Of course, most of those laps have been under the safety car, but he has his teammate on fresher mediums right behind him. So it will be interesting to see if there are any team orders at McLaren. For now it doesn't seem like it. as Zumberman also picks up a 3-second time penalty. One of 4 drivers who has already done so, and BP already has 2 3-second time penalties on his name. So already quite a bit of track extending going on. But here at the front, it's still Cramp in the lead, as we have Ashley moving past Ned Hammer, and once again there's a bit of carnage in the third sector as BP also sees an opportunity and moves past the Racing Point, who now has 2 hungry McLarens on the back of him as well. And Ashley trying to make the most of his medium tires. And we have Joseph Lai and Carson going side by side into turn 3. Carson gets pushed a bit wide, but keeps his car on the road, falling down the place as Joseph Lai now in P3 on the medium tires, looking reasonably good. And still within the arrest range of Taufik, who has lost that 1 second to Cramp already, as Ashley now tries to move past Zunguman round the outside, and we have a spin of BP. Oh, he tried to stick his nose in, but Ashley already turned back for the second part of the chicane, and now BP down to last place. He seems like he managed to slow it down just before the wall, so no front wing damage, but of course now hot tires and last place for him, as there is an enormous train forming behind the AlphaTauri of Zunguman, as Ashley has managed to get past after that tangle at turn 9. As RL9 now tries to go around the outside of the final corner. Almost manages to succeed, but gets a bit of a wayward out of the final corner and has to settle for P12 for now. As Zunguman forming quite a bit of a train behind him. Ashley already 1.5 seconds clear, now trying to catch up to BJ, who's been on his hard tires since the start of the race. As Shush gets his first penalty of the race for track extending. So yeah, Joseph managing to keep up with Taufik, who now has a sort of stable gap to Cramp of around 1.6, 1.7 seconds. Carson trying to hang on as well. Doesn't seem like he doesn't have any DRS on the Racing Point in front. But yeah, Cramp, Carson and Shush on those medium tires since the start of the race. Will be interesting of course with the safety car, there will be a bit less tire wear on those tires. As Ned Hammer now finally gets past Zunguman and Diano also up the inside. Once again it's at this part of the track where all chaos unfolds, as Zunguman gets a bit on the grass on the exit of the penultimate corner. Now will be under massive pressure from Diano. We'll move out of the slipstream and down the inside, and oh, there's contact between Toddy and the Alfa Romeo. And yeah, that's unfortunate. Not really sure if there's anyone to blame, as my focus was turned to Diano and Zunguman battling into turn 1. As BJ now is retired and is at a massive crash. At the same place, Maldonado of course once parked his car on the last lap of the 2012 Australian Grand Prix, I think, chasing down Fernando Alonso. And BJ's second retiree of the race, and we have a second safety car. And now is of course the perfect time for Cramp and Taufik, and maybe also Joseph, Carson and Shush to make that pit stop, since especially for the front two that pit window was probably open either this or the next lap, and we'll see probably the entire top 5 pitting into the pits, and that's exactly what's happening. as Carson gets a 3-second time penalty on the entry of the pit lane. That's interesting. As Cramp gets released into the racing point of Joseph, that's a bit interesting. But Zunguman picking up a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So yeah, all people boxing opting for the hards except for Shush, who is maybe by mistake, but maybe it's a tactical masterstroke, has gone on to a fresh set of soft tires, which is very interesting to say the least. Toddy now also in after that spin, and he doesn't seem to have... Oh yeah, he was on mediums, now he's gone back onto the hards he started the race on, of course. So, of course, with the people who made their pit stop under the first safety car, we now have Ashley and Ned Hammer in P1 and P2. Of course, Ashley and Ned Hammer were the only two drivers who opted to box under that first safety car. So now they're 1 and 2, but especially Ashley, I think, will have to make another pit stop. Still 18 laps to go on already on those mediums for 6 laps. Ned Hammer on the hards. I'm not sure if he's able to take those tires to the end of the race. So Cramp still ahead of Taufik, still ahead of Joseph, still ahead of Carson. All 4 drivers going for the exact same strategy onto the hards. And as long as there is no damage for any of them, they'll be going to the end of the race on these hard tires. So Cramp, of course, still in a net P1, expecting that the people who are 1, 2 and 3 right now will make another pit stop towards the end of the race. Or if they don't, they'll be very slow towards the end of the race, as they'll have to nurse quite old tires. So yeah, Cramp still in a good position. As all the debris from BJ's car has been cleared, I think, and all drivers have caught up to the safety car. So I think we'll be back to green flag racing at the end of this lap. Still not even halfway through this race and already quite a lot has happened, so it will be interesting to see how the rest of this race unfolds. Of course, with those 2 safety cars, drivers won't have to worry about fuel, as they'll saved up plenty of that under these 2 safety cars. Will be interesting to keep an eye on this guy, as the safety car will be in at the end of this lap. Shush, of course, on those soft tires, either by mistake or actually opting for this as a strategic maneuver. So let's see if he is able to carve his way to the grid, as Joseph nearly swipes off Carson into the wall, and yeah, that results in a 5-second time penalty for the Racing Point driver. That was interesting to say the least. So big gap from Cramp to Diano, as Ashley now can decide when to go. And he's still waiting. Oh, and he spins! He spins as he tries to get going. He loses the rear, and Ned Hammer takes the lead on the safety car reset before they even crossed the finish line. As Carson tries to, oh my god, that's a big crash. He tried to go down the inside of Joseph, but lost it on traction on the exit, and that's a big shunt, and Carson is out of the race as well. Only local yellows in sector 1, so not another safety car. So race control feeling the driver should just race, and that's exactly what they're doing right now. Cramp already catching up to the back of Diano. Of course, Diano on very old to hard tires compared to those on the Ferrari of Cramp. Sure, still in P7, but right on the tail of the racing point of Joseph, as he dives down the inside at the penultimate corner, but Joseph closes the door, and now BP smells an opportunity and goes down the inside of the final corner. So some interesting things going on with the racing point of Joseph. Of course, first picking up a 5-second time penalty after contact with Carson on the safety car. Then when Carson tries to overtake him, the Williams spins out, and now some questionable defending from Joseph, which led to Shush, instead of gaining a place, losing a place to the Hess of BP. So Nat Hammer maintaining the lead, which he obtained after actually nearly spun, but luckily for him he kept it out of the wall, and is now back in the fight for P1 with Cramp still behind Diano, as Junderman picks up another 3-second time penalty. Taufik has managed to catch up back again to the queue, now right behind the Ferrari with Joseph still in P6 and BP on the mediums in P7. BP still has a decent chance of getting some good points here, as Shush gets really close, under braking, but not quite close enough, as there's quite some weaving going on, as everyone tries to follow the slipstream of the car in front. And we have some yellow flags. I don't know what for, but seems like everyone's still going. Maybe Shush had a bit of an off. Yeah, he has front wing damage. BP was already at 15 seconds worth of penalty, so maybe on track he might be in a good position, but after penalty supply he probably won't be finishing as high up as I thought he would, with all those seconds worth of penalties. So actually still behind Nat Hammer. Diano keeping up quite nicely despite being on 12 level hard tires, with Cramp still unable to find a way past the McLaren, as actually now goes for the lead down the inside of turn 13, and he's passed. Nat Hammer tries to go over and under with the switchback, but that doesn't work out, and now instead he has Diano right on his heels. So actually back into the lead after losing it on the safety car restart, as Diano was a bit wide on the exit of turn 1, and now Cramp senses an opportunity, goes a bit deep into turn 3, but still manages to keep it round the outside as the inside for the next corner, and the Ferrari driver is passed, as Taufik is losing positions to Joseph and BP, as the Renault driver from P5 down to P7. Don't know if he made a mistake or not, but he is down 2 positions. So Cramp back up in the podium positions. Now we'll try to chase down the racing point of Nat Hammer, also on reasonably old hards. As you get a lovely camera shot from the helicopter. Oh, and Joseph under braking, nearly going into the back of Diano. Keeping it clean for now. As we have the top 6 caught in one shot as BP sends one down the inside of Joseph. Really aggressive driving and a lot of overtakes happening in the final sector where you maybe wouldn't expect them. As Taufik now tries to go down the inside, but once again Joseph just turns in like there's no one trying to overtake him. Maintaining P6 for now, but being overtaken by BP. Of course, BP does have quite the collection of penalties, so that position will be regained once penalties apply at the end of the race. But at the front, Ashley now creating a bit of a gap to Nethammer, with Cramp still right behind the racing point. Diano also keeping up and keeping BP behind, who's really pushing on his mediums to try and get towards the front of the field. Of course, if he wants to salvage any reasonable points from this race, he will have to make a lot of overtakes and then pull out a gap. But in those 12 remaining laps, it will be very hard to get that much of a gap towards the other drivers. As I don't think Hammer will get DRS and he won't, so that will be a perfect opportunity for Cramp to make it a Ferrari 1-2, as Hammer defends the inside, but he's powerless against the ERS and DRS of the Ferrari, and Cramp is up into second place. As Taufik goes wide into turn 3, Toddy just does not manage to get past. Toddy also still without penalties, and despite a difficult start to the race and a difficult quali as well, he is still in this race in P8 without any penalties. Although he is on very old hards, he might still be in for some reasonable points today. Of course, with only 10 drivers remaining, every driver that finishes right now would get points, but some higher points are still possible for Toddy, with drivers ahead of him already picking up quite some penalty numbers. Looking at this, Shush 17 seconds, BP 15 seconds, and Zungelman and Joseph Lai both have 11 seconds worth of penalties. So with the safety car, of course, the field has bunched up quite a bit, and one position or one penalty can drop you down multiple positions right now. So yeah, Cramp closing the gap on his Ferrari teammate, and I think it will be a matter of time before Cramp moves into the lead as Taufik picks up another 3-second time penalty. As Diano now has found the back of the racing point of Nethammer, both on very old hard tires. Still 10 laps to go, so it will be interesting to see if the drivers decide to make a late pit stop or that they test their luck, as BP gets another 3-second time penalty. Won't be long before the game disqualifies him, I think, if he keeps up this penalty rate. As Shush now on the soft tires puts in the fastest lap of the race. BP will go for it down the inside of turn 13. Diano thinks about the long term, lets him by, of course. No need to fight, it will only wear your tires down more. And yeah, he does box. I was gonna say, if you are wanting to make a second pit stop, you shouldn't leave it too late, as there then won't be enough time to make up for the lost time. So 10 laps to go, and Diano will go for a fresh set of soft tires. Now he will be the fastest man on track, but he will be down in P9 as BP tries to make a move round the outside of turn 4, and he is up into P3 right now. But of course, as mentioned, with 18 seconds worth of penalties. Unless something crazy happens, I don't think he'll stay there. In the meantime, Ferraris have switched position and Cramp is back up into the lead. I don't think we've had any other car than a Ferrari drive in the lead of this race so far. Of course, Cramp in the first 10 laps, and then after that second safety car it was Ashley who then lost the lead to that Hammer. So I'm completely mistaken. That Hammer of course has led some laps as Joseph Lai moves very late to defend the inside of turn 13, stays ahead of Taufik. As Toddy is also in, seeing his McLaren teammate box for the softs. One lap later he will do exactly the same thing. So not taking any chances with his old hard tires, not wanting a puncture, and he'll come out behind his teammate Diano and Zunguman, who's just been overtaken by Diano. So you would expect Toddy to catch Zunguman and overtake him as well. That will be P7 and P8 for McLaren. Maybe not what they've hoped for, but it's still points for both cars again, as Ashley now gets overtaken by BP and spins. Oh no. I don't know. Oh, and that's really unfortunate. And we have a virtual safety car. I don't know if there was any contact between Ashley and BP, but that's really unfortunate as he was in a good position. So now he'll have to make it back to the pits without a front wing. Hope for him that the virtual safety car stays out long enough so that he can at least get some time back. He needs to slow it down. Remember that he doesn't have a front wing. Shouldn't drive too fast, as you only lose more time going into the gravel. Virtual safety car still active, so BP now up into P2 as the virtual safety car now ends. So there's a yellow flag. Zunguman also pits, picking up another 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Ashley comes out in P9. Oh, Zunguman of course had a drive-through penalty after speeding at the end of the VSC. So now McLaren up into P6 and P7. As Taufik is right on the back and now in front of Joseph Light, finally getting past after some failed attempts previously. And Joseph down to P5. So BP is right now the fastest man in the top 5 on his medium tires, as he is now within 1 second of race leader Cramp, as we have Shush retiring from the race at the end of sector 1, and we have a full course safety car. And Joseph, just in time, just before the pit exit, got the message, and he will switch to a new set of soft tires and a new front wing as well, serving his 5-second time penalty for that contact with Carson at the second safety car. And will drop behind Diano and Toddy. No, Toddy is in as well. I don't know why, but yeah, he stays P7. You would say he stays P7. Yeah, he should still come out in front of Ashley. Yeah, just about. Calculated stop from the McLaren driver, making that extra pit stop as the safety car awaits the leaders So it will be interesting to see what these drivers do. Of course, if BP pits, he'll be yeah, either way he'll be backed up into the field, no matter if he pits or not, of course. But yeah, this safety car won't help BP. Of course, the gap to P6 was about 18 seconds as he pits, but Cramp stays out. So Cramp has the confidence as BP picks up another 5 seconds by speeding in the pit lane. So the top three staying out. Nethammer taking a big risk on already 19 lap old hard tires. As BP comes out in P4, but of course taking into account a lot of time penalties for him, 23 seconds to be exact. So when everyone has bunched up behind the safety car, that will cost him all the positions that he can lose. Maybe not to Zungerman, who has also got almost the same amount of penalties. So of course it's a risk for the top three to stay out, but for Cramp, without any penalties, it's, I think, a logical decision to stay out, keep track position, not be caught up in any midfield battles, and just have a clean restart and hope that the two cars behind him can hold up the pack on fresh softs. Of course, with Nethammer and Taufik staying out, that is an advantage for Cramp, who now has two cars on old tires behind him to keep those fast cars on the fresh softs behind for maybe some laps. As the safety car will stay out for one more lap. As Zungerman has made another pit stop to get rid of one 5-second time penalty. So I think at the end of next lap the safety car will go in, so we'll have 4 remaining laps of this race. 4 laps for the drivers on softs to make the most out of their tire advantage, and 4 laps for Cramp, Nethammer and Taufik to defend their podium positions. Taufik has 6 seconds worth of time penalties, of course, as we discussed, BP a lot more. Diano only 3 seconds, so as it is right now, Diano would be in P3 if the race would finish like this. Joseph on 9 seconds at the moment, serving that 5-second time penalty he got from the collision with Carson in the pits. And Toddy and Ashley down in P7 and P8. Of course, Ashley, latest victim of the close proximity of the walls here at Albert Park, but still in with a decent shout of some reasonable points. Of course, with all those drivers ahead of him with time penalties, if he can keep it clean, he'll gain some positions. So everyone except Zungerman now behind the safety car. Yes, the safety car is in this lap, so we'll have 4 laps of racing towards the end as Cramp once again gets to dictate the pace, and he'll hope he can keep it in a straight line coming out of the final corner. Just 9 drivers remaining in this Australian Grand Prix as the safety car is into the pits. Cramp slows it down before putting his foot on the gas, and it's go 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 for the last 4 laps, as Taufik has made a massive mistake and is already down to P6 before starting the lap. And now as Toddy down his inside as well. Dreadful restart for the Renault driver, as Toddy makes a mistake on the exit, and now Ashley tries to maneuver his way through the middle of both cars. Brakes later. Taufik tries to keep the position, but Ashley, of course, much more grip, and Ashley already up into P6. So a good restart for the Ferrari driver. As BP is now all over the back of Ned Hammer. As Toddy picks up his first 3-second time penalty of the race. As BP down the inside, side by side through the fast chicane, and that Hammer still in front. BP down the inside of turn 13, as Joseph Light does exactly the same on Diano. And there's chaos all around, but one man in front. Cramp already the scenario he exactly wanted. Now BP, of course, in P2 after overtaking that Hammer. Joseph now right on the back of his teammate after aggressively overtaking Diano. Ashley still behind with Toddy right behind them. And Taufik, of course, after that mistake, dropping down to P8. As Joseph already has passed his teammate and up into P3. And Ned Hammer really struggling on those tires. 22 laps he's been on those hards. And he is no match for all those drivers on fresh softs. Diano tries to find a way around the racing point. Not through the fast chicane. But right now, ooh, that's close. Ned Hammer defending the inside. Staying in front for now. As Ashley tries to stick his nose down the inside. But stays behind the McLaren for now as well. As Diano is practically pushing Ned Hammer through the corners. As what's happened to Cramp? He's lost positions to BP and Joseph. As Diano gets past Ned Hammer, who's now under pressure from Ashley as well, who puts his Ferrari down the inside. Can he get it slowed down? Yes, he can. Contact with Toddy and Ned Hammer as well. And now Taufik gets past Toddy again, after Toddy tries to go around the outside of the racing point, gets pushed wide and loses the position. But I don't know what happened with Cramp. Seems like he made a mistake because he was on his own. But yeah, down to P3, still of course not any reason to panic, as the drivers in front of him have 26 and 14 seconds worth of penalties respectively. So he's still in the net P1. But Diano and Ashley are pushing quite hard, and Ashley of course doesn't have any penalties, so Cramp has to still push hard in this final sector, and then one more lap to go of course, as BP leads on track. And switch and trading fastest laps, BP and Joseph. As we are on the final lap right now. And actually will have to get past Diano if he wants any chance with his teammate. As Taufik picks up another 3-second time penalty, Toddy has gotten back past him. now pressurizing that hammer again. As the fight for the effective race lead is still going on, as Cramp just has one more sector to go. But he has two very aggressive looking cars right behind him. Joseph Lai picked up another 3-second time penalty, adding up to his total as Toddy gets down the inside and past Ned Hammer at the final opportunity he got. As BP will cross the line first. Joseph Lai moves ahead of him, but here is our race winner. Ural Cramp wins after winning in Bahrain as well. Ashley joins him in P2 to make it a Ferrari 1-2, and Ned Hammer holds on to third after penalties applied by keeping it clean. And despite finishing P7 on the road, he gets P3 and the podium. But what a race that was, full of chaos, full of penalties, but it was Ural Cramp on top. So that was a rather chaotic Australian Grand Prix with just 3 drivers not picking up any penalties, and those are the 3 drivers on the podium today, as Ural Cramp finishes just 1.1 seconds ahead of his teammate Ashley, who gets his first podium of the season to make it a Ferrari 1-2. Ned Hammer finishes at the moment in P3, as Toddy picked up a late 3-second penalty, demoting him to P4 ahead of his teammate Diano in P5, who has a 5-second penalty that might be removed. I don't know what it was for, so there might be some late changes to the results, but the stewards will look at that. Joseph picks up the fastest lap in P6 after some hard defending in front of Taufik, BP, Zunguman and Shush, Carson, BJ and RL9 do not manage to finish the race. So yeah, that was quite a chaotic Australian Grand Prix, with only 9 people making it across the finish line at the end. But Ural Cramp picks up his second win of the season and leads the championship now going into France. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Hope to see you all next week, and have a great weekend.